What's up, man? Want to give it a shot? Elementary level. You'll get it. You'll pass.
I doubt that.
You'll pass. All right, so it's 3 very easy questions. You want to give it a shot too? You guys could do it together. It's 3 very easy questions, you know.
Yeah.
See if you guys can get 2 of 3 very quick. So the first one's the hardest and then they get easier. So the first one's a perception test. So I have 2 images. And the reason I call them images because one of them's a photograph and one of them's a painting. So I want to see if people can tell the difference. Which one's a photograph and which one's a painting.
I mean, could I go first? Or?
Yeah, you can go first. Yeah,
One's a photograph.
one's a photograph and one's a painting. So which one's a photograph and which one's a painting?
Okay.
Yeah, photograph.
You said this one's a painting?
You think this one's a painting?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should also painting.
So you guys think this is a photograph?
Yeah, it's Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman. Yeah. All right, so it was actually a trick question. So they're both paintings, right? So I don't expect people to get this one. Obviously, this is a trick question, right? So this one's actually an oil painting and this is a digital painting done on an iPad, right? So there's 2 reasons why I asked this question, though. The first reason is just believing someone opens the door to being deceived, right? Because you guys believe me one's a photograph, that influences your choice, right? That's obvious. The second reason is if we want to determine something is real, an image is not good enough, right? Because images can be fake. Like if I show you an image of an elephant flying, will you believe elephants could fly? Right? If I show you an image of an elephant flying, right? You won't believe elephants could fly, would you? No, right? That's obvious, right? So again, the next 2 have to do with physics. And very easy. Could we say that water always seeks its lowest point, right? In other words, the bottom of the container, and always takes the shape of it and the surface always levels out, right? Water, right? Because I could change the orientation of the bottle, but water always goes to the bottom, right? And always levels out, no matter what, always goes to the bottom, right? So since we understand water, you know, has one orientation, which one of these is in the correct orientation?
They all
Assuming that's the ground.
Okay.
This one, but
Would you agree or?
They're all the same
There's one,
orientation.
no, there's one that's only in the correct orientation, and the other 2, one of them's upside down, and one of them was taken sideways. Only one was taken right side up. Only one is correct. You got it.
I guess this one.
Yeah. Okay, you got it. You said this one, right? Yeah, this is the correct answer because water always seeks its lowest point, the bottom, and always levels out. This one's not level. This one's at a vertical. You know what I'm saying? This one I actually took sideways like that. And then this one I took upside down. And the way we would know that is, again, water will show us that, you know. Water always is a horizontal line. So you want to line up the water horizontally, and that's how the image was took. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty easy. So, okay, this last one, even easier than this one. You know, you guys should both get this one. How would we describe the surface of the water, like in a pool, for example? Like, what does level mean? Once water levels out, how would we describe the surface? Right, horizontal will be the definition of level. That's what the definition is, right? Again, elementary level. Which one of these 2 is correct based on our understanding of water and how water behaves? Which one is correct when it comes to water level?
Technically speaking, this one.
There you go. You agree?
I mean, technically, probably this one.
Yeah, right. It's the obvious one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we go by the measurements too, I mean, you know, it's a level. It doesn't deviate, right? It stays horizontal, right? So the real reason I do this is because we were all actually tricked to believing this is the answer, even though we know it's this, you know? You guys want to know how we were tricked? Do you guys...
The flat Earth trick.
There you go. You got it. So you believe the Earth is a ball? A sphere?
Yes.
Yeah, right? So NASA in specific, they claim to have satellites orbiting the Earth, right? So they need to know the radius of orbit. So technically, they need to know the radius of the Earth. So they tell us it's 3,959 miles. And from that, we get the circumference of 24,901, which means there needs to be curvature every mile. So the first mile is an 8-inch drop. Second mile, 32 inches. Third mile, there should be a 6-foot drop. So that's what this graph will represent. If we build this structure over a lake that was miles across, that water should deviate by 6 feet in 3 miles. So if we start at 5 feet, that gap should increase by 6 feet. So it should be 11 at the end of it, if the water is truly bending, if the Earth is truly a globe. So in my opinion, this is the #1 experiment that would debunk the globe. Sure. So if I was to ask you guys, what's the #1 proof that convinces you or that makes you believe that the Earth is a ball?
So obviously, when you look at the flat Earth like model, it shows, you know, basically like what we view like on the globe.
I actually have I don't like to use this as reference because nobody really knows the dimensions of the Earth. But I like to use it. I like to use it as reference, though. This is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flat Earth model.
Right. So this is what
assumes that This assumes that at any one of these points, let's just say the south of Australia.
Yeah, that's south. Yeah, that would be considered the southern hemisphere.
Or our south of Africa, south of South America.
Right.
When you like look towards what we view as south,
Yeah.
you should be able to see like what we call like the North Star and South Star.
Oh,
Wherever
I
you
see.
are, you'll continue like it's there.
So you're
That model doesn't make sense because if you're looking like this.
So you're saying
we're seeing the same star.
Okay, so first of all, the reason I don't like to use this map is because, again, nobody really knows what the Earth looks like, but this is what it would look like if all the continents and countries they tell us exist. If that's how they're telling us, then this is what it would look like. But in my opinion, there could be more continents. The continents could be a different size. They could, you know what I'm saying? So this projection is just a projection. Again, this is not the true Earth. You know, that's just what they show us. Again, if you just believe what you're told, then yeah, you're gonna believe this model. But again, I'm a realist, so I don't even go with this model. I only use it for reference. So again, if what they're telling us about the countries and the continents is true, then this is what it would look like. But again, like you're saying about the North Star, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew though, if you're at the equator, right, on the globe, right, and you're south of the equator, how is it that you're still able to see the North Pole Star south of the equator when you're underneath the wall? Because you are able to see it from south of the equator. The North Star is visible from south of the equator, which will be this red line. But on a globe, you will be on the bottom. You shouldn't be able to see the North Star on top. You would have to be seen through the globe, in my point. So the fact that we could see the North Star from the southern hemisphere debunks the globe, because again, you'll be on the bottom. How do you see something up here when you're on the bottom? On the southern hemisphere.
Not exactly straight though, isn't it?
You're saying like an oblate spheroid, right? That's what you're saying, right? Oblate spheroid. But even if it was an oblate spheroid, that would contradict the redefining of level, because in schools and mathematics, they redefine the word level to fit this model. And the way they do it is they define level as an equal distance from the center to the surface of a sphere. So technically, if you go 10 feet, above sea level here, right? And 10 feet above sea level here, and then 10 feet in the middle, and you connect them, they're trying to say that means level, right? Equal distance from the center to the surface, right? But in reality, in construction, level means horizontal. You could even look up the definition of level right now. It's horizontal. But again, in conceptual, terms, or, they redefined it to fit this model, which at the end of the day is a model. This is a model too. But at the end of the day, the Earth is level. But nobody really knows the dimensions of it. So I would like to know, for all we know, it's probably not even ice around this. And I know you heard about the ice wall, right?
Yeah.
For all we know, this is all probably land. We don't know what nobody's actually gone out here to explore. It's actually restricted. They don't allow us to explore this area. So I don't know if you heard of the dome theory. I'm pretty sure you probably heard of the dome theory, right?
Well, planes aren't allowed to fly over because literally, like, you lose a plane.
Well, airplanes only, they only fly in circles or straight lines, in other words, but they only go from point A to point B, So they'll never have to go out over here to the extremities, that's pointless if all the countries are in the center, right? They all just fly in straight lines like this. And that's how they circumnavigate. They just go in circles like this, But again, I don't know if you knew, the north is also very restricted. Airplanes cannot even fly anywhere near the north. So who knows what the hell's at the north? I don't know if you knew though, but compasses, there's a magnetic field, that has a relationship to compasses. Compasses always point north, right? So if you ask me, there's something causing that, obviously some kind of electromagnetic field or something. And obviously they tell us that the globe has a molten core, right? And that's where the magnetic field gets generated and it comes out of the north. But in reality, again, that's just a theory based on the globe. In reality, nobody really knows what's at the north causing this magnetic pull. So in my opinion, that could be the key to free energy for all we know. You know what I'm saying? We could all be having free energy and it all could be coming from the north. We don't know. But we can't deny that there is an electric magnetic field. That's what electronics used to work. Electric motors, they need the electric magnetic field that exists. And it's being generated at the north.
I forgot what you said, but then what is the shape of the Earth?
Nobody. So here's the thing. So a lot of people want a shape of the Earth, right? Because they believe Earth is floating in space, right? What if I told you that space is just a theory and it's just someone's idea? In other words, outer space, nobody has been higher than 20 miles. So anything that they show us above 20 miles is only space agencies, government agencies, or private organizations that get government funding. So like SpaceX. So only organizations like that are the...
You explain that, but then people actually do buy weather balloons and they
Exactly.
send it up with a GoPro.
I like that. Exactly. So I'm glad you brought that up. So this is what you're talking about, right? GoPro. But I don't know if you knew GoPros, because of the fisheye lens, it actually bends horizontal lines, right? But if we send a helium balloon with a standard lens, this is what it looks like. You know, how would you describe the horizon? How would you describe it geometrically? Could we say horizontal? Horizontal? I mean, that's literally where, that's where the word horizon comes from, horizontal, right? Another thing about the horizon is that if they're telling us that the horizon is the curvature of the Earth, where it's supposedly bending down, right? When we elevate up, like if you have a drone or even a helicopter or even in a mountain, if you go up a mountain, that horizon should stay fixed. In other words, you should start to look down more the higher you go up.
We actually gotta head out.
All right, no worries, man. You want to take some info? Maybe you could look into this? Yeah, I mean, trust me, man. You know, cross-reference, you know, try to prove the globe. All right, thank you. So the horizon rises to eye level, you know, and that wouldn't happen on the globe, you know. So I'm glad you brought up the helium balloons, because there's been hundreds of people doing this, putting a standard camera, and there is hundreds of videos online you could look, and they all show, you know, horizontal horizon, you know. The only way we'll ever see curvature is through GoPro or CGI images or video. That's the only way we'll ever see, you know, curvature of the Earth, because, you know, it doesn't exist, you know.
Assuming space isn't real, then what is the sun? Is the sun just like...
I like that. So the sun, first of all, they tell us that it's like this giant ball, 500,000 miles in diameter, right? Like over 400,000 miles in diameter, right? And they say that this is gas ball in space. But again, nobody really knows what the sun, stars, and even the sun, moon, and stars are. They're just lights in the sky. All we could do is observe the patterns they do. You know, the constellations, the stars, right? They're constant. The sun is pretty constant. It does one, you know, revolution per day, right? So that's all we can observe, the movement of the stars. But here, the sun is actually very, very small. Let me see, where is the images of the sun? It's not actually what we were told. Oh, it should be in here. Okay, here we go. So the sun, I don't know if you're familiar with these rays. They're called crepuscular rays. You know, they come in at an angle through the clouds. So if we triangulate these rays, it's been estimated back in the day that the sun is about 30 miles in diameter and only about between 300 and 3,000 miles in the sky. So it's a very small, close sun. So if you look at this image here, this is another helium balloon, by the way. There's the sunspot right underneath the sun. This is the clouds, by the way. And there's a sunspot right underneath it, telling us that it's very close. You know what I'm saying? So the sun, again, they say it's 30 miles in diameter, and it can only illuminate so much of the Earth. You know, if we look at this other chart, think of the sun, the diameter being the thickness of this line, and also that in height. Now imagine that thickness of the line in height. It's literally going to be right on it almost, right? You know, to scale, based on this map. In other words, that light's only going to be able to light up this area. So it's going to be nighttime over here. And if it goes over here, it's going to be nighttime over here and daytime over here, you know. So wherever the sun travels is noon, you know. So if the sun's noon here, then it'll be right above us here. And then when it's noon in Europe, it'll be up over here, you know what I'm saying? It's again, nobody truly knows what the sun is, but it's very small based on our observation, crepuscular rays, you know what I'm saying? And it can illuminate the whole Earth. It's impossible. That's, you know, doesn't make any sense. Because it's close and small, that's why, you know.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Is there any other question that you may have? I mean, some people will like you know, ask like,
this is like a mere observation, but like, technically speaking, isn't it just a theory? Like, isn't everything technically just a theory?
So I would say
like, both
not
like the flat Earth and like the round Earth. Like, there's nothing really proven. Like, for example,
so
it's just a theory. It's just like most likely speaking that the Earth is round from what people have observed, right? But then like
this is a theory.
It's also another theory. So
Well,
there's actually nothing to like disagree with or like agree with.
What we could agree is on physics, water. Could we agree that water always seeks its lowest point?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's a fact. That's not a theory, right? Could we agree that water always levels out?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a theory. That's a fact, right? We use it in construction, you know, leveling tools to make sure, you know, Walmart, you know, make sure that their floor's perfectly straight using water. That's the number one tool for measuring level. Now, anybody claiming that the physics of water is actually doing something else to what we experience, like this, and the burden is on them to prove that. Until then, I'm gonna go with physics. I'm gonna go with what I know. And again, if somebody wants to make the claim that no, water's not actually level horizontal, it's actually level curve relative to the center of a sphere. And again, if you could prove that to me by physically showing me or with some kind of scientific experiment that could be measurable, testable, and repeatable, that way I don't have to believe in theories, then I'll go with that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So again, the reason why I'm out here is because it's literally this simple to understand, and the reason why is this, and that's one of the reasons why it's being censored, because it's literally this simple to understand. So again, all these theories, they're all backed up by the theory of gravity, if you ask me. The theory of gravity is what explains away, planets forming in space. It explains, water bending around a ball. It explains, orbital mechanics, orbits around the sun. It's all theories based on another theory, which, again, at the end of the day, gravity has nothing to do with measuring the Earth. I would say the reason why things fall is a completely separate discussion. Because I don't deny something is causing this to fall, but I don't know if you knew, gravity is just a theory. Yeah, so it's just an idea. So again, nobody really knows why this falls, but they want us to adopt gravity so we could buy into all the other heliocentric model stories, basically.
I feel like they make us buy into gravity because it's just their way of explaining how the world works.
But it's the one
you're able to explain this.
Right.
This is only like one example compared to like many other like geologists or like philosophers. Like, are you saying that the government is working together with like Galileo or like some other
right, like Newton and all this,
yeah,
Isaac Newton,
saying, like,
Albert Einstein.
So
like
yeah, hundreds of years.
Yeah. So I would say, like, Albert Einstein, I can't deny his existence, right? Obviously, there's video of him. But if you go back to like Newton or some of these ancient Greek, mathematicians, right? Me believing that they actually existed and they actually, proposed what they proposed, will be like me believing in Jesus existed, and he did what he did, again, because we're going thousands of years in the past, and it's just somebody's word in a book. So it's just history. So I just have to believe it. So again, when it comes to all these people that supposedly they couldn't be, like, first of all, this could be fictional characters, is my point. Like anything pre 300-400 years, in my opinion, they could be fictional characters. I'm not saying they are, but I'm saying they could be. And again, nobody really knows how far, history goes, History could be doctored, it could be changed, the winners write the history books. I don't know if you heard of that term. Winners write the history books. So if we want to determine what's real, I don't think taking people's stories is going to tell us. I think understanding physics and our reality directly is what's going to tell us what reality actually is.
But physics is literally just another theory made by the government.
I would say physics it's me and you going out and experimenting with matter and see what it does. You know what I'm saying? Like
we're able to test it, but the terms we use to describe what's happening is still made by the government.
Like we invented language. I agree with that. But language is a useful tool when it's attached to something real. So if we attach language to something real, then I'll agree with that. I'll go with it. We could test it. Then I'll know what you're talking about, right? But when you start attaching language to theories that only exist in your mind, that's where it falls apart for me. Where it's not physics anymore. Where it's imagination at that point. So theory is just another word for imagination. But they put the word science in front of it, scientific theory, and now people think it's somehow real, but it's not. Until you could prove it physically, and again, we could attach language to it, but as long as we can attaching language to something real. Like a tree, we could agree that's a tree. We could attach a language, aka tree, but we both agree, yeah, that's a tree. Now, if you start telling me what that tree is made out of and all the molecules, I would say that's just your imagination. You know what I'm saying? Like, because, it's conceptual. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, you can actually still prove that a tree is made of, like, molecules.
I mean, it's made out of something. I can't deny that. But what that something is...
It's like you're able to actually see it through a microscope.
Yeah, again, we're putting language to these cells. But what's making up these cells? They're trying to tell us that it's protons, but I don't think we can zoom in more than cells. They're telling us that they could, but I don't know if you pay attention to these protons, it's all CGI. It's all CGI. So anything more microscopic than cells, I haven't seen. But I can't deny cells. I've seen blood cells. I've seen skin cells. I've seen all that. It does exist, yeah. But what is that made out of? I don't know. And anybody telling you, I think it's just, again, it's a concept. It's just an idea.
Yeah, it's just another theory.
Yeah, exactly. Molecules, protons, nucleuses, and all that, right? Yeah. So, but we can prove to a certain degree, like water being level.
Going back to, like, the flat Earth.
Yeah.
Like, let's say it is flat, then why hasn't anyone just sailed to, like, the corner? All
right, so I'm glad you asked that. So the South, the Antarctica, I don't know if you knew, there's actually an Antarctic treaty signed by over 50 countries. So it basically preventing me and you, let's say I was a millionaire or you were a millionaire, right? Or point being, we had the money to actually explore by a boat, right? maybe get a little crew, right?
Well, technically speaking, you can still go. I mean, no one's preventing you.
That's what I'm saying. There's actually been a couple people that tried it, and they actually have been arrested without a jury and been sentenced and everything. So because of the Antarctic Treaty, they're able to do that. So again, you could look into this. It's over 50 countries signed it, and it makes it illegal for me and you to actually go out below the 66th parallel to explore. So we can't even get close to Antarctica. We'll be stopped. Now again, it's on paper, but like you said, they're probably not going to stop us. You're probably right. It's just to scare us, probably, right? But it is on paper. You could Google it, the Antarctic Treaty. It exists. And also, there's another treaty preventing us from going to the north. So that's another treaty that's so secret that it's not even mentioned.
Well, I mean, it's like with the amount of believers, I'm pretty sure, like, such as like the quote Area 51 raid, like, just go for it. I mean, if you guys are going to try to prove it, then
I would again, if somebody has the money, again. That's the thing, though. People that have millions of dollars or that are wealthy, right, in this society, are not going to go against the grain. Why? Because that means they're going to have to go against everything that they've built, right? So a truther or, someone that's doing what I'm doing, to actually be a millionaire is going to take way more. They have a lot more to lose. You know what I'm saying? They have a lot invested in the system, is my point. So I doubt they'll be on board with exposing the system. I think it's going to happen with the lower, not the rich people. I think it's going to be the working class to really make a change. You know what I'm saying? Again, the people that are wealthy in the system right now, they're set. I don't think they want things to change. You really think a person that owns 5-6 properties is going to want equality amongst everybody? Like, dividing the land, for example, equally. They're not going to want that. Obviously.
Yeah,
so
course,
again,
like,
relying on rich people to explore I would say it's kind of a waste of time.
Course, yeah, but if you think about it, there's also, like, as you said, there's so many countries with, like, the whole treaty thing, right?
Yeah.
Are you saying, like, everyone working in the government is just together on it then?
Have you heard of the UN, the United Nations? Yeah. So it's out in the open. The UN is made up of different countries that make up the UN, the United Nations, right? So they are working together. It's out in the
they're working together.
Obviously. Now you're saying that like at a deceiving level, right? Are they working together to deceive? I mean, if you ask me, if you look at, not that this proves anything, but I would just say the word fits. The word government literally means to control the mind. Govern, meant means mind, govern means to control. The whole idea of government is to control.
Yeah,
so,
the whole point of the government is to control. However, in like what's the word? It's not domestic. It's diplomatic? No.
like in a free society in a way, or
yeah,
what
kind
would
of
you
like a free society, like how any of us could technically run for the government, like a government position.
Right.
So technically speaking, why doesn't one person just do it?
Okay, so in my opinion, when it comes to government, I think a regular person like you and me can only make it so high. And I think the highest level, I think this is just my opinion, is mayor. I think that's the highest anyone like you and me. Maybe governor, maybe. But once you get anything higher than that, like presidents, House of Representatives, all this stuff, you're kind of like have to be born. It's bloodlines. When you look into this, there is bloodlines. So they don't just let anyone into these positions of power. Because again, these are just puppets, governors, presidents. I don't know if you knew, the only corporations have presidents. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you knew that. Only corporations have presidents. So I don't know if you knew the United States is a corporation. That's why we have a president.
Yeah.
I don't know if in the UK they don't have president. They have a king and queen. But everywhere else it's corporations. So again, we're not free, like you said. We might think we're free because they tell us that, but on paper and how by law, we're not free. It's we live in a corporation, and our Social Security is literally how they drain us. That's how we work for them. Because again, we're part of a corporation, the United States Corporation. That's the official name. And again, we have a president because corporations have presidents. So again, I gotta go back to that. We're not free. Again, we think we're free, but again, we might be able to just explore, like you're saying. But I don't have the resources. What I have the resources to do is come out here and speak to people, and hopefully we could get enough. Maybe a big enough group. Maybe we could pitch in, right, and maybe actually make it happen. But for now, this is like the best thing I could do right now. You know what I'm saying?
Technically speaking, like even if like the quote rich people,
right,
they try to do these experiments. Even the government, like they try to do these experiments and show it to like the working class.
Right.
People still don't believe it because like they're the government or they're the rich. They're just deceiving you. Like, so does that mean you just don't believe them even if they show you the proof?
So it depends what they're showing. Again, I have common sense. So if somebody's showing me something and it's not physically demonstrated to me in a practical fashion and it's just words, then I can logically assume that they're bullshitting. Because if what you're saying is true, there should be some kind of practical reference or some kind of demonstration of what you're saying to prove what you're saying. You know, something simple like this, you know? I mean, this, again, this is just a picture, but we can actually go out on a lake and observe the lake and actually measure the lake, the surface of the lake. I'm not just saying this stuff, you know what I'm saying? It's based on practicality and what we measure and what we observe here in reality. All these theories coming from you know, space agencies, government, again, they're just theories. They're not backed by the practical. And you know what else is not backed by practicality? Religions. Religions just have a book. So I would say astrophysics, all that, is just a religion. Why? Again, they're not backed up by practicality. There's just stories, just like a religion, you know what I'm saying? But again, people don't look at it as a religion because we're told it's education, right? It's not a religion, it's education. So, you know, we adopt that, you know, so we don't see it as a religion, but it is a religion, you know. I know some people might get offended by that, but but it is what it is, a religion. Here's another thing. What do all religions have in common? A creation story, right? And a God, right?
I mean, yeah, I don't
Right?
really believe in religion. I'm an atheist, yeah.
That's the biggest religion. I used to be an atheist too, and I'm gonna tell you why atheism is a religion. Because it's based on the idea of creation, of the Big Bang. You believe in the Big Bang then, right?
No.
You don't believe in the Big Bang?
It's just a theory.
So do you believe in
Everything's just a
evolution?
theory.
Do you believe in evolution though?
I don't quote believe in anything. I just
Okay.
it is what it is.
Okay. Oh, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
Nothing I can do to alter it. Nothing I can do to prove otherwise. So
No,
it is
yeah.
what it is.
No, yeah. So, I mean, no, yeah. In my opinion, again, anybody just coming to you with stories and, you know, can demonstrate what they're saying, again, I would just say it's a religion, and I would stick to physics again.
But speaking of physics,
Right.
sure, water goes to the lowest point.
Yeah, lowest point.
But isn't that fully because of gravity? Or
Okay.
what other thing would it be because of?
Okay. Real quick about gravity, because I know you brought up gravity a couple times. You know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is? Neil deGrasse Tyson, most famous astrophysicist?
No.
No? You might.
I don't do much of.
Okay,
them.
you could look him up after. It's a 20-second clip. They asked him what gravity is. This is his response.
What is gravity?
I have no idea. Okay, next question. No, here's the difference. We can describe gravity. We can say what it does to other things. We can measure it, predict with it. But when you start asking, like, what it is, I don't know.
All right, so when he's talking about that, obviously they don't know what it is because it's a theory. And what he's talking about when he's saying that we can measure it and predict with it, is he's talking about the rate in which things drop, right? You've heard of 9.8 meters per second square, right? So they're measuring the effect of things dropping. They're not measuring the cause of why it fell. Does that make sense? So they're measuring the effect, and not the cause. So speed, again, has nothing to do with what is causing it to drop. So again, I won't deny that there is something causing this to drop. That's obvious, but it's not gravity. Gravity, again, is just a theory, and in my opinion, they push it on us so early. You know, when we're little kids, it's in cartoons everywhere. You know, I have a little girl, and I see it in cartoons everywhere. Gravity being pushed, and the reason why is because gravity is like the glue that holds the whole heliocentric model together. Because that's how they explain, you know, planets, you know, water banding, orbit, you know, all that. So gravity, you know, is just, again, a theory that was pushed on us so that we accept this. You know, because if we go, again, common sense and physics, you know, we know this is the answer, you know.
But then, how do things become level then?
So how do things become level? It's just the physics of water. It's just, yeah, it's just the physics is just our reality. It's just us observing reality. And
How can you prove that that is the reality?
because we're both here talking, like, I mean, you're going to need to like philosophize, this could be a dream, I know, type of thing. But put it this way, in dreams, you could fly and stuff like that. Things don't make sense. The dreams defy physics. You know, you can't deny that. You know, some dreams, you know, can defy physics.
Sure.
I would say this is a pretty solid reality, and there's laws of physics. Would you deny that there's laws of physics here?
Okay, there's laws of physics, but
What do you think that means, that there's laws of physics?
there's things that
That can be broken, right?
Yeah, it has
that,
to happen.
And that only happens in reality, right? Not in dreams.
Sure.
So that's my basis of determining what's real, you know, the laws of physics. So again, water being level is the #1 proof to debunk the globe. Again, if you're telling me it's doing something contrary to my experience, I want you to prove that to me.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course, but like,
Yeah,
you say
physically.
water is level, right?
Yeah.
But why does it become level then?
It's just the way it was created. I would say this place is a creation, 100%. Again, I used to be atheist like you. I used to think that it didn't really matter. This place was just random, and I'm just here, experiencing it. But it's more than that. We're here on purpose, if you ask me. There's it was intended for us to be here. This reality has meaning. It's a creation. You can't deny that. I don't know if you knew the first law of thermodynamics: energy cannot be created nor destroyed.
Yeah.
So that debunks the Big Bang theory. The first law of thermodynamics. Again, are we going to go with laws or are we going to go with theories to determine what's real? What's more logical? We go with laws, right?
Well, I mean, the laws are technically still just theories.
I would say laws are more than theories because they could be proven. Theories can't be proven. I would say that's the difference.
Well, I mean, it's mostly proven through the definitions of other theories.
We're proving them and we're describing them through language, which I know we invented language, but again, if the language fits what we're observing and we can all agree, then we can logically assume, okay, we can all agree on this, we can all observe it, it cannot be broken. We'll call it the laws of physics until somebody could prove otherwise. And that's where we're at right now.
Still observed that.
And measured, not just observed, because it's used in construction to measure horizontal. Anywhere you could look it up in engineering. Water's the number one tool. And I don't know if you've heard of Euclidean plane geometry. Euclidean plane geometry. It's what's used in construction, to build this campus, to build bridges. It's assuming that the Earth is a level plane. In other words, right angles, 45-degree angles, 90-degree angles, it's all congruent to each other and only possible from a baseline. If that baseline was curved, all these angles wouldn't match up with each other, and they do in reality.
Well, I mean, but then if you believe that the Earth is flat, then why are we not just able to see?
Okay,
other people,
I like that. So we have a limit to our perspective, right? So we don't have infinite vision. I don't know if you knew, things shrink at a distance, right? That's obvious, right? And the reason why that happens is because we have spherical vision. So again, we have a limit to our perspective. And let me see, I have some, okay. So this is how we see. These railroads, it looks like they're coming together, right? But we know they're parallel. They have to be parallel, right? Same thing with the hallway. We know these hallways, the walls are parallel, but it looks like they're coming together, right? And again, we have a vanishing point. So the reason why we can see, China from here, this is a simple chart to basically get an understanding. So this arc represents our eyeball, right? Because we have spherical eyes, right? It can't be denied. And light travels in straight lines, right? So if we observe an object above our head and it just moves away at the same elevation, look what happens in our eyeball. It seems to drop in our field of view, even though it's staying in the same height, but just moving away from us. So the bottom does the same. So the opposite, actually. So when something moves away from you, below your eye, it seems to rise up to your eye level. It's just like something above your eye, it seems to decline. So everything gets shrunk to a point, which is our eye. So that's the limit of perspective, and that will be the horizon, what we will call the horizon. That's why we can't see past that, because that's the limit. That's where everything shrinks down, and we can't see. It's just too low, too small to see, too minute, basically. Yeah, everything just gets compressed. And then I would say that, depending on your height at the beach, if you're 6 feet, it's about 6 to 9 miles, right? You can see in front of you. You increase your altitude, you also increase the angle of view, and that's why you're able to see further in front of you. You're just increasing that angle of view. It's not because you're seeing over the curve. It's because you're increasing the angle of view. Again, based on perspective. So that's why we can't see. And that's the same reason why the sun seems to descend, because the sun is very small, close to the ground. So when it moves further away, again, it's just doing this, going until, and this line is basically the horizon. Once something gets to the bottom right there, it's basically you can't see anymore, because the bottom obstructs it. So it's kind of like blocks it. The floor blocks it, you know what I'm saying? It kind of so that's why we can't see past that, So, that's a pretty simple explanation. Again, in the mainstream, you're not going to find this chart. I actually, made this chart myself, but I actually followed another channel, explained perspective, very well. And I actually recommend that, I'll give you some info before you go. And there's a channel there called Vortex Puppy, and he has some really good videos on perspective. And I recommend you check it out. I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy some of his lectures. Again, he's not mainstream, but it's the material, what he offers, that I appreciate. But yeah, he's kind of what triggered my thought with this. Kind of make perfect sense to me. And because a lot of people do question that, why can't we see China from here, or France, or or Europe, right? Or Or how come the sun sets, right? Or how come, all that. And all literally explained by perspective. Literally. It's the same effect happening, with all these different things we're observing, Yeah. I mean, do you have any other questions? I mean, again, I don't expect to convince you, because this is, even when I came across this 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago, it took me months to actually accept it, actually looking into it. It's going to take a lot of honesty from you if you really, want to look into this and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I would say this is like the number one proof on Earth. I mean, the number one lie on Earth is what Earth actually is, right? Because in my opinion, nobody knows what this place is. Yeah. All I know is that the surface is level. That's it. I don't know anything else. Anybody claiming they know what's at the end or what the sky is or what anything else is besides the surface being level, I would say they're lying. Because again, until we can all explore this place, we don't know what this place is. You know what I'm saying? Some people think this could be a prison. We're just in our own body, in our own prison. You know what I'm saying? Again, I don't know. I don't know what this place is. I'm open to any ideas,
That's fair.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I like to think myself open-minded. Yeah, I mean, let me see. These are the stars. I don't know if you've ever seen close-up of the stars. So this is taken from with a P900, a Nikon P900. It has 83 times zoom. So the fact that we're able to bring the stars into focus like this tells us that they're probably no more than 1,000 miles in the sky. And same thing with the planets. So the planets, this is what NASA shows us, a CGI cartoon, but then this is what it actually looks like through an amateur camera. And this is what Jupiter looks like through an amateur camera, and this is what NASA shows us. So the fact that the planets and the stars can be brought into focus with the same zoom tells us that they're both at the same distance. So the planets are not closer than these, because they tell us that these are like trillions of miles away, the stars, right? And it takes, light years to reach us, right? That's what they say, that the starlight takes light years to reach us. And then these are supposedly in our solar system. But again, they're just lights in the sky, and they're just in the same distance, if you ask me, 83 times zoom cannot zoom in to trillions of miles away and bring them into focus. It's just not possible, So again, the sky, again, nobody has been over 20 miles, That's the limit human beings have gone. So anybody claiming to go higher than 20 miles is just, again, NASA. And they always cut. I don't know if you've ever seen the space, how they shoot the space rockets. They always curve. And then when they go out of view, they cut to CGI. So how convenient. So once nobody, because obviously they have like a crowd there supposedly looking at the space launch, right? And then they take off. But again, once it goes out of view from the people, from the crew that's there or whatever, that's when they cut to CGI on their screen, and that's what they show us after, some CGI, And again, because they launched a rocket up in the sky, people think that that footage is actually real, right? But I mean, if you look at like the Chinese space station or their space program, or even India, I think India has one too now. Oh my God, their CGI, I'm not even joking, looks worse than PS2 graphics. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, I seen one the other day, how they cut to the spaceship in space. And it's like, I can't believe they're actually putting that out there. Like, but it makes sense that India doesn't have a bigger budget as NASA. But even NASA stuff looks fake, But again, we have to go back to like testing things ourselves, using common sense and, and understanding physics, Like, another thing that debunks outer space, like, really easy. In order to have high pressure, like in a tire, right, in a car, that tire needs to be completely sealed, like a cylinder. It needs to be completely sealed in order to create a higher pressure or even a vacuum, Because what happens when there's a hole on that, the air just equilibrates, it just rushes out, right? Because that's what happens. That's the physics of air pressure, it equilibrates unless there's a solid membrane, right? So they're telling us that outer space is negative pressure compared to Earth's 14.7 psi, right? Without a barrier, though. So how is it that we're maintaining this pressure without a barrier? So that doesn't make any sense. So again, I don't know if you've heard of the dome theory. Again, this is a biblical scripture that there's a dome covering the earth. So in other words, covering the air. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's a dome because we don't know what this container is. But in my opinion, the air, maybe it has to be contained because we do have air pressure here. So that dome theory, if in my opinion, makes more sense than the outer space theory. So what's outside this dome? I don't know. I don't know. That's a mystery. Some people think it's water outside of this earth. It's not space, it's water. That's why the stars look like, when you see video of these stars, it looks like they're like rippling in water. it's not, you could kind of see the ripples, and they change colors too. So that's one of the reasons why I think people think that the sky might be water. That's why it's blue, like the ocean, right? It would make sense, But again, I don't like to jump to conclusions. Things that I can't prove, I admit I can't prove that. What I can prove is this, Because again, if somebody's telling me he's doing something else, you have to prove it.
Of course, but
Yeah.
isn't this... Oh, okay.
Yeah, water will
I'm
be
still a
there.
bit confused about this part, though. So you say that, yeah, well, of course water goes to the lowest point, but then there is no why because of that.
Well, there is the same
of course
reason.
we
There's
observe
the,
it,
the
right?
the same reason why things drop. Well, the reason why things drop is because this foam is heavier than the surrounding air, so the air can't sustain it, right?
Yeah.
So like a ping pong ball, right? It'll
But then-
fall through the air, but it'll float through in water.
But then let's assume that,
So air cannot sustain water, so that's why water goes down.
let's say there is no space.
Right.
Then shouldn't Earth be constantly falling?
Okay, so you're still thinking, you're still trying to think outside of the Earth, right?
Oh, okay, thinking exactly about Earth then.
Because I honestly can't think of what's outside the Earth. I can't conceptualize that.
That's fair.
So it's kind of hard to answer that question. But the reason why water goes down is the same reason why things drop. Again, nobody really knows why. So that's the reason why water
Well,
always goes
there's
down.
no one that knows why, then that's why there's theories, and that's why there's the theory of gravity.
But I would say the theory of gravity has nothing to do with physically measuring for curvature. I would say it's a false argument when it comes to measuring for curvature. Again, I'm not denying that there is something causing it, and gravity is a theory that explains it, but it has nothing to do with physically measuring
But then,
curvature.
like, speaking like that, you're using a theory you're still using a theory just to prove this.
Well, this
right?
is not a theory because, again, we can
Of
all
course
agree.
we can observe it, but then
We can measure it too. That's
yeah,
my
we can
point.
measure it, we can observe it, but isn't us measuring and observing it still because of gravity?
No. So you're saying that water is level because of gravity. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, they're trying to define level. So if gravity was causing water to be level, then that means level would mean curve, because again, it will have to be equal distance from the surface to the center of a sphere. So that would have to be a curve. So you would have to believe that level means curve then, and that level doesn't mean horizontal in reality. Again, if we're talking about concepts, then yeah, we could say that in the globe Earth concept, level means curve. Yeah, I agree with that. But in reality, it doesn't. It's what's practical is it's horizontal. Level means horizontal. That's the practicality of
You
it.
have to create another theory for why water goes to the lowest point.
So you just want to replace why things drop then.
I mean, yeah, sure.
So I'll tell you. So there's 3 explanations to why things drop. So when it comes to objects having motion, if you go to the laws of motion, in order for something to have movement or to move, something needs to be pressing on it. In other words, so like if you see the leaves moving, the air is moving them, right? It's anything that has movement, something's pressing on it to move, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you 3 theories to why this thing drops that is different from gravity. So the first theory is something maybe it has to do with air pressure, I don't know. Something is pressing everything down at the same rate. So everything's being pressed down, So I don't know if you heard of the Einstein theory of relativity.
Yeah.
Right? Warping and bending of space-time, theory of, So that's, in other words, they know gravity is bullshit, so they had to come up with this other theory, the Einsteinian theory of gravity, to explain that things are actually being pushed down. I don't know if you knew that. They actually say that now, that things are being pushed down, And so point being, that's one theory. The second theory is a lot of people, this is a controversial one once you get into this, but I don't know if you heard of this one, but supposedly the Earth could be rising upwards too. So in other words, when you let this go, what's happening is this is not dropping. It's the Earth rising upwards to meet it. So does that make sense? I mean, theoretically speaking, right? And the third option is like when you create a computer program. How do you give physics to that computer program to have a direction of down? You just do it at a click of a button, right? Like when you create like Unreal Engine, right, to create video games.
Sure.
You give a direction of down, right? Or what a gravity would be, right? But it's all a computer program. There's no real movement happening in that program, right? But you programmed it, that was created to do that, right? So that would be the third theory, in my opinion, that it just goes down because that's the way it was designed. You know what I'm saying? So those are the 3 theories, in my opinion, that are more valid than gravity. Or of this being pulled, supposedly.
So everything in the world is programmed to be going down?
like your video game, like Grand Theft Auto, like, you know, any video game designer, you know, they literally create the physics within the computer program. You know what I'm saying? There's no actually moving parts within the program. I mean, other than what they made them do. You know what I'm saying? Right. But again, that would go into the theory that this place is like a computer program, which I don't really buy into. I think this is a, you know, I don't think this is like a simulation, and I think this is a reality, you know. Yeah. But it could be, you know. I don't know what this place actually is, you know. Yeah. It's intriguing, you know, to think about it, what this place actually is, you know. But again, theory again is pushed on us just to so we buy into all the other theories as well, you know. Have you heard of the theory of relativity? Yeah, right. That's how they explain to us how people are upside down in China and sideways in Paris, right? But that would mean that the horizon's relative too. In other words, they're trying to say that the horizon, you know, it's sideways, you know, in France, you know, and upside down, but the horizon only has one orientation, you know.
That's because it's perspective, though. No?
I would say, you know what a gyroscope is?
Yeah.
Right? You guys just know what a gyroscope is, right? So you guys know the functions of a gyroscope, right? Right? So airplanes use these to maintain level, right? So a gyroscope, let's say this is the axis, right? And the wheel's spinning like that. So once the wheel's spinning, the gyro always maintains its position in space, right? So when airplanes use that, for example, they calibrate it to the horizon perpendicular before they take off. So that way the gyroscope becomes a point of reference. So when they take off into the sky, you know, when they're flying through clouds, they use the gyroscope to maintain level, right? So the gyroscope always remains in the same position and always remains perpendicular to the Earth. That tells us that the Earth always remains in the same position because this always remains in the same, well, the gyroscope, you know, and it never changes position no matter where on Earth you go. That's how airplanes maintain level. So gyroscopes, in my opinion, prove that the horizon only has one orientation because it remains in the same orientation and it remains perpendicular to the horizon no matter where on Earth you go.
Why does the gyroscope remain in the same orientation?
Because of the spin. You have to spin the disc, and once it reaches maximum RPMs, angular momentum basically is what causes the gyroscope to stay upright. So as long as it keeps spinning, it's gonna stay upright, and that's what airplanes use. They actually use one powered with air, and then they use an electric one as well. They use two, you know, just to be more accurate. But yeah, you know, that would be another proof, I guess, to debunk the globe gyroscopes. You know, gyroscopes wouldn't work on a globe, you know, because again, the horizon, it would be pointless to calibrate it to the horizon if the horizon is going to change orientation when you fly. You know what I'm saying? It would be pointless. But they do it in reality. You know, it's used. You know. So I mean, let me see what else is there. I usually have the main proofs. Let me see.
Can we go back to the thing about the angular momentum? So,
yeah.
You know, even if it is like, you know, like keeping itself upright because
right.
of the spinning, right? How does that necessarily follow? How does it follow that your conclusion is that that like the Earth must be flat?
Okay, so just so we could get a visualization, right? So a gyroscope obviously can tilt in any direction, right, like this. So what airplanes do is they calibrate, when they're on the track, they calibrate the gyroscope to the horizon, right? So the horizon will say it's horizontal. So they calibrate it perpendicular, in other words, perfectly straight up 90 degrees from the horizon, right? Okay. Once they do that, they spin it, obviously, and it's gonna remain in that position regardless of an external force. That's the properties of the gyroscope. Okay. So once the airplane takes off, this, no matter how the airplane tilts, this is gonna stay upright. Okay. In other words, perpendicular to the horizon. Okay. And no matter where you travel on Earth, you could travel 100 miles, 1,000 miles, it's gonna remain perpendicular to the Earth. Okay. So that tells us if this stays right side up and it's always perpendicular to the Earth, that means the Earth has to be a horizontal line. Because if it was curving and this stays straight up, it won't be perpendicular once you start navigating 100 miles or 200 miles. It won't remain perpendicular to, if it was a globe. But in reality, it does remain perpendicular to the Earth, to the horizon in specific.
I think that part is not very clear. So like you're saying that it would remain perpendicular, but the only reason why it would be because it has to be a horizontal line. But like, you know, then if what about like, you know, going around the globe first?
That's what I'm saying. So, okay, let me just try to give it, obviously this is not to scale, right? Okay. If we say this is the horizon, right, and we're right above the Earth, right, and we calibrate this to the horizon, and once it's spinning, it's gonna stay in this position in space no matter where I move it in space. It's gonna stay this position, right? On a globe, if we start going, let's say south, right, it's not going to be perpendicular to the earth anymore once we start going this way, because this is going to stay in the same position and the ground's going to start to curve. Does that make sense? So it's going to change the degree of angle in which it's standing relative to the earth, if it's a sphere. But because it stays always perpendicular, no matter, let's say this is the earth, right? And this is calibrated perpendicular, 90 degrees. No matter where I go on earth, it's going to remain perpendicular and right side up. And that's only possible from a plane, no matter where you go. Now, if this table was curved and and this phone remains right side up and I move it to the side, it's not going to stay perpendicular to the earth. You know what I'm saying? Because in order to stay perpendicular to the earth, it will have to be curving with it, like that. But gyroscopes don't do that. Gyroscopes remain in the same position in space once they're spinning. Gyroscopes cannot be changed, in position once they're spinning. That's the properties of a gyroscope. And the fact that they stay perpendicular to the earth on a globe, they would have to be switching positions with the earth to stay perpendicular to it. But in reality, they don't. They stay upright all the way to China, all the way to Japan, all the way to, anywhere, France, Europe. And it always stays in the same position and always perpendicular, always at 90 degrees. So I would say that's a pretty easy, thing to understand. Again, but yeah, the gyroscopes.
Cool.
No, yeah. You want to take some info home? Maybe cross-reference?
No, I'm
No,
okay.
you're good. All right.
I'll be good.
All right, no problem.
I'll search it up at
No, yeah, no worries. All
I
right.
have a question.
Yeah.
What's the initial question you're asking? Started in fifth grade.
So you actually missed the whole.
I did.
Yeah. So since you already know what the topic's about, let me just see if you could get. Let me see. I'll ask the first one real quick. Okay, here we go. So I have two images here,
Okay.
and one of them's a photograph and one of them's a painting. And then we'll see if you could get
Ooh.
which one's a photograph, which one's a painting.
Let's say that's a painting.
Okay. It was a trick question, actually.
They're
They're both
both
paintings.
photographs?
No, they're both
Oh,
paintings.
wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, yeah. So I don't expect people to get this one.
Okay.
So this one's actually an oil painting. This is a digital painting. So
Oh,
there's
okay,
two
yeah.
reasons I start off with this question, and the two reasons are: the first one is just believing someone opens the door to being deceived, right? Because you
Okay.
believe me, one's a photograph, that
Yeah.
influences your choice, right? That's
Okay.
obvious. So it's not good just to believe people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the second reason is if you want to determine something is real, an image is not good enough. Because if I showed you an image like that defies physics, for example, like a elephant flying.
Or Bigfoot.
Exactly. You're not going to believe that image is real, right? Because the image can be fake, right? Even a video too, right? So the second question actually has to do with water, right? And would you agree that water always seeks its lowest point? In other words, the bottom of the container, and always takes the shape of it, right?
Yes.
And would you agree, though, the surface always levels out as well, right? Like once
Yeah.
it stops moving, right?
Yeah.
So since we understand that water, always seeks the lowest point and always levels out, which one of these three is in the correct orientation? 1, 2, or 3?
Whoa, trippy.
Water will be our reference point. If water always seeks the bottom of the container and always levels out, which one is correct?
All of them.
No. Look at the water. They're different in every image. So which one is
I know,
which?
but couldn't these have been taken from a different
No. That's
perspective?
okay. You got it. You're overthinking it though.
Okay.
Based on how I'm showing them to you.
Oh, then I would say this one.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
one. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So you understand that this one was taken upside down.
Yeah.
And this one was taken sideways, right?
Sideways.
No. Yeah. Perfect. That's obvious. Yeah. So you got it. So that was the second question, and then the third one was, since we understand the definition of level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which one is correct, A or B, based on the physics of water?
A, technically.
Yeah, obviously, right? And obviously we were taught, that
Mm-hmm.
that it does this. But if we actually went out in reality and measured this curvature, it wouldn't be there. It doesn't exist. So this will be the number one experiment to debunk the globe, in my opinion.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I've been in this for 6 years, and rarely anyone is speaking of this experiment. And this is the number one experiment. So that's how censored this is right now, that even I hate using the word flat earth because flat earth has been propped up to be mocked, but I would just like to call myself a realist. So any other realist that's debating this online or that's in the mainstream talking about it, they'll never talk about this experiment, which is pretty fishy in my opinion, right? Because this is the number one proof to debunk the globe. And it's literally just, in my opinion, just to kind of they're basically controlled debates
Okay.
that are happening right now online, especially the mainstream ones. They have millions of views, and stuff like that. And they never get to the nitty gritty. They talk about theories, then they try to disprove those theories, and then the realist tries to bring in another theory to disprove their theory, and it's like just a bunch of theories that, in my opinion, it's a waste of time. Again, they're controlled debates because they're trying to keep the majority from this. You know
Why
what I'm
do you
saying?
think they're gatekeeping?
I'm glad you asked that. So the obvious reason, I'm gonna tell you the obvious reasons,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna tell you my opinion.
Okay.
So the obvious reasons why they're gatekeeping is NASA alone gets $60 million a day.
Okay.
So that's, NASA alone, Another thing is that nobody really knows the dimensions of the Earth. So nobody truly knows what this place actually, looks like or how far it extends. So we're actually being kept like, I would say, like farm animals in, and like a fence, because we believe that there's nothing more to explore. So the globe becomes that fence for us because we just believe that. But my opinion, the real reason why they're lying to us about this and stuff like that, it's literally to control us. And the way they're doing it is by making us doubt our common sense. So when we're 5 years old, they tell us about the globe, right? Oh, you live here, they even tell us about Santa Claus, and children just believe it, right? They just believe everything they're told, right? And the reason they tell us that at that age, because we're barely developing common sense at 5 years old, right? So if they could get us at that age to accept this and then nobody ever questions it, then in my opinion, you didn't develop your common sense where it needs to be. Therefore, you're going to be swayed by experts and just what anybody else that you think is smarter than you is saying. So that's how they're controlling us, because you can't control humans by force. Why? If you've seen somebody trying to control someone else by force, the rest of us wouldn't allow it. They'll be exposed right away, like, oh, we wouldn't allow that, we don't. So they have to do it psychologically. So that's why they lie to us about the globe. They lie to us about where we live to disconnect us from who we are, basically. So
that they can just maintain control?
Maintain control, put it this way, the people that are controlling this are living in luxury because of us.
Okay.
They literally don't work. They're just the people that literally print the money. You really think they work? Obviously not. So the people that are actually in control, they're living the life they want to live, of just kicking back, having someone else do everything for them, literally, and that's, in my opinion, it could be that they just want to control us because they're lazy. But then I thought about it, and it could be that they're hiding something else about this place that I don't even know what.
Okay.
So they could be hiding something else that I can't even conceptualize why they're lying to us. Because that idea doesn't really make sense. Oh, they're controlling us because they're lazy. That doesn't really make sense to me.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't here prepared for that point. But
No, yeah.
What about waves? Like,
okay, waves. So I would say waves.
Waves, they don't go towards the lowest point. They're just constantly in motion. Right?
Yeah. So waves. They obviously the globe Earth explanation is that the moon is causing these waves because of the gravity of the moon, which again doesn't really make any fucking sense because the Earth is bigger than the moon. So how is the moon affecting the Earth? Whatever. But again, that's just another theory. But in reality, I think the waves, first of all, is irrelevant to the shape of the Earth because the waves are just a phenomenon, in my opinion. Nobody really knows where they're coming from, but it could be some kind of filtration system underneath the ocean that could just be causing the waves, because the waves don't happen in the lakes, And if the moon was causing, not waves, and lakes.
There's not big waves.
No, yeah, ripples maybe, like because of the wind, but not a wave, like, you know what I'm saying? I've never seen a wave on a lake. Like an ocean wave.
Scale of like an ocean wave, but like there's still.
I mean, I would call them ripples, maybe. Maybe the drainage system that's part of the lake, maybe, I don't know. But at the end of the day, again, nobody really knows why waves form. But again, the globe Earth explanation, again, the theory is that the moon is causing it. But again, it's irrelevant to the shape of the Earth. Waves.
There's really nothing to prove here. It's just theories on theories.
I'll agree that anything to do with the waves is a theory, because I don't even know what they are. But water being level is not a theory. That's a fact.
But how would you explain the level then?
On a lake.
No, like just water being level.
I mean, we can. Do you know what a horizontal line is? Then we can. We could basically say that the water is parallel to horizontal lines, and we can measure that. So that's how we prove that water's level. So we draw a perfect.
Why to it? Like, sure.
No, you're trying to answer.
How it is, right?
Yeah, that's what it is, and you're trying.
There is no why.
There is no why, because that's just the physics of water. Like, why does air pressure equilibrate?
But then, why should we believe that
No.
Earth isn't round?
Well, because water shows us that. Water shows us that the Earth is level. So again, we go with laws of physics, or do we go with theories? That's what shows us.
Except the laws of physics are still just theories. Like one day, like 200 years in the future, someone could just like figure out something else and just prove completely otherwise that, let's say, the law of thermodynamics, like they could just prove that completely wrong like 200 years in the future. Like, because it's still just a theory.
Right.
All of science is just a theory.
I would say formal science is a theory. So there's 3 categories of science. I don't know if you knew. There's natural science, which is physics, chemistry, biology. There's formal science, which is language-based, which is mathematics, theories, you know. And then there's social sciences, which has to do with social psychology, you know, politics, you know, stuff like that. We're talking about natural science that has to do with physics. What you're saying falls under formal science. So formal science can change. Interpretations could change. Yeah, theories could change. Natural science is what it is. We can only observe and experiment and basically just test what's in front of us. And we can all come to an agreement based on what's in front of us.
So if you say you only believe things that
And
you
so-
observe, right?
We'll can test and physically.
Can test and observe, of course.
That's the scientific method. Measurable,
So do you mean
observable,
that people
testable,
are just
repeatable.
supposed to just naturally be able to think about stuff? Like, how does the brain work then? Since you're not able to actually observe it, like physically.
Oh yeah. I can accept that there's certain things to this reality that we can't conceptualize. For example, like you said, the soul, or what's encompassing the mind, right, to make it work, or the self, right? That's metaphysical. So that's, again, I would say that goes into religion. So if I try to tell you how my brain works and, you know, all that, I would just be making it up, to be honest, you know. But I'm not, you know, I'm honest enough to admit that, you know. Anybody telling you about the insides of our feelings and our mind and our thought is just subjective. Again, at the end of the day, that's metaphysical. It can't be proven. You can't take out my thoughts from my body and I can show them. You know, I can't take out my feelings and show them to you.
Just because you can
It can be quantified, is my point.
Yeah, of course, but just because it can be quantified or stuff like that, it doesn't mean it's not true, right?
No, I can agree that there is an aspect to this reality that's metaphysical, which again, I'm not denying that. I think this place is where the metaphysical and the physical come together.
But the thing is, we're not able to actually quantify it or see it.
Exactly, but just because we can't quantify the metaphysical, that doesn't mean we can't quantify the physical. We could quantify the physical. I can weigh this phone based on pounds. You know, we agree on pounds. You know, and I can get a weight of this phone. You know, that's a fact. That's quantifiable. You know, the same thing with water. I can quantify water. 1 cup of water is 8 ounces. 2 cups of water is 16 ounces, which is a pound. So technically, 4 cups of water is 2 pounds. That's quantification. That's facts. That's not theories. That's the facts based on what we observe. You know, that's obvious. You know, 16 ounces. We agree that that's a pound. And 2 cups make up 16 ounces. So, you know, that's a fact, you know what I'm saying? So we can prove things here to a certain point. Then after that point, it gets to the metaphysical. So that's where, I don't know, that's where religion comes in to fill in the gap.
Said about the round earth theory?
So I would say the round earth theory just falls apart. Again, let's quantify it then. Let's quantify the globe and let's see what we come up with. And this is what we'll come up with. If we wanted to quantify the globe, then we should be able to, you know, measure it.
Then why don't you do it on the largest scale? Rather than just quantifying like a single lake, why not just do an ocean?
Well, the oceans, because of waves, it'll make it inconclusive. We have lakes that are over 20 miles across. We only need like 5 miles, you know. We don't need that much, you know. But again, there are hundreds of lakes on Earth. We could do this experiment on all these lakes.
The Earth isn't completely flat. Like there's mountains and whatnot.
No, that's what we're measuring the water.
Which is why. Of course we can measure with water. But the thing is, like, just because the water is like
level, or
how do I explain this? Not hard to explain, but I don't know. It's just I actually don't know how to put this into words.
yeah, I understand. I understand how the land, obviously there's high points and low points. There's valleys. There's canyons, right? So the land obviously is not even, but they're telling us that sea level means curve. So they're telling us that the physics of water is not what we experience. So that's why I say let's go to a lake, because again, a lake doesn't have waves. A wave is going to make it harder for this experiment to be more concrete. Does that make sense? So that's why a lake will be more ideal in my opinion. But again, it could be done on the ocean. I don't see why not. But it will be more harder too, because the ocean, how low do we have to build those pillars to hold the structure? You know, how deep does the ocean go? You know what I'm saying? So a lake is more reasonable to do it on a lake because, again, and we could always build a trench too, you know? Just dig, you know, a trench miles across, build a structure, level structure over it, and then fill it with water after. And that water should bend from the structure, you know? There's different ways to do it, you know? It's not just one way, you know? And then, yeah, I would just say that going into understanding, I guess, again, engineering, you know, all engineers, all downward vectors are parallel, you know, everything in construction, engineering, you know, everything shows us, you know, even airplane navigation, you know, everything shows us that the earth is level, you know. But, you know, again, anybody, again, talking about these facts, how I am, you're not going to find anyone genuine online. That's why I like to give people links, because if you actually are interested and I triggered like some curiosity in you, it might just be shut down right away if you just go on your own and try to search this. Because again, you're not going to come across anyone genuine like me, you know. It's just people that are going to either ridicule it right away or other realists that are just going to make it cringy, you know. I cringe a lot of other flat earthers, you know, that talk about this. I fucking cringe at it because either they're not well versed in the topic yet, they're kind of new to it, or they're plants. In other words, they're not genuine themselves, you know what I'm saying? They're just trying to make it look cringy or dumb, you know. But no, yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, like, that's one of the reasons why I'm out here, is just sharing this with people, because I don't think it's fair that, you know, that it's being censored and not giving the rest of us, you know, a chance to look at the other side, right? You know, that's where it becomes unfair.
That's just me personally thinking, but like, I don't really care if the earth is flat or round. Like, there's nothing much that will affect me anyways.
Right.
Like,
No, this is...
years down the future, am I just going to be like, oh no, the earth is flat, I'm going to change my whole life now? Like, there's not really going to be as much change.
Right.
Like, so I honestly
Well,
don't...
there will be, in the terms that he's talking about, like, we're being censored and this information is being gatekept.
Well, the thing
so
is,
if that is
but
disproved,
so
then
what
it'll
if
show
it
that.
is though?
then
People
it'll
won't trust
show
the
that-
governments anymore.
Yeah,
People
then
don't
it'll
trust
show
the
that we
government
are being
anyways.
lied to.
But this will be like the thing that would just tip over. I don't know if you know, but like, people are fed up with the government, obviously, because they don't trust them, you know.
Yeah.
This will be the tipping point, in my opinion, for people to actually like do something to actually make things change. You know, because how is it that, in my opinion, like, you know, you guys are still once you're out of school, like, I mean, depending on what kind of job you get, but rent is fucking crazy right now, you know. You know, it's like the low income right now, minimum wage can't even, you know, can't even afford a 1-bedroom apartment in LA, for example. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way we're living right now is like, it's crazy, you know. And I think once people find out how much we've been lied to, a big change could happen. And again, the shape of the earth, again, it's not so much about the shape of the earth. Like you said, I don't really care about the shape of the earth either. I care about, this is an insult to my intelligence. Again, so if you're gonna tell me this shit, you know, you better be able to prove it. And if you can't prove it, then I'm not gonna believe anything else you say, you know, especially if you can't prove the other shit, you know. I don't know if you knew, the value of money, it actually has no value at the core. I don't know if you knew that. So the reason why is because our money is not backed by gold anymore. So gold was used as a substance, because it's a real substance, to regulate money, so that nobody could overprint, right? Because nobody can just create gold out of thin air, right? Yeah. So it was a substance to regulate money, but it's not even backed by money since the 70s. So that means money has no value at the core right now. So it's just based on faith. So again, I would say that's the God they give us, money.
I would actually disagree with that, because like,
what do you think?
Rather than money just being like, just being there, like, it does actually have like a local substance, like a kind of a value to it.
Yeah, you want to know the value it gets? When you buy a house and get a loan, when you sign that loan, you gave it that value. So that's when you give it value, when you sign these contracts. So when you go get an apartment and you sign a 1-year lease.
It actually has value, like, anytime. Like, you're able to go into a store and just buy stuff because you have the money.
Because we're all believing that, we're all agreeing that, okay, we're going to give this money this value. And that's what we're told. When you go...
Because of those people in charge of us, like, let's say they are in charge of us, like, they give us the money, and the money has value, right?
Put it this way. No, it doesn't. It only has value if it's backed up by something, which it was, by gold. Now that it doesn't, it does have value.
It's backed up by goods.
But it's all based on our participation. Does that make sense? In other words, money by itself doesn't have value, basically.
That's a really good question. What's the question?
I mean, I don't want to trigger, you know, something, but I mean, you've heard of flat Earth, right? Have you heard of flat Earth?
Yeah.
There you go. You see, I didn't want to trigger anything in you, but basically I'm just sharing information about the Earth and how it's not a sphere. And it's actually not flat either, you know, like we were told. It's actually level.
How it is not a sphere, or how you don't believe it's a
It's
sphere?
how it's not a sphere.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're like absolutely
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Why would the government or the 1% or whatever it is not foster the idea of flat Earth, like from like over the years? You know, like wouldn't that be easier to maintain instead
Right.
of having?
Right.
Because if that was accurate, and if they
Right.
had like scientific
Yeah,
or science
I'll
to
tell
back
you.
it up, then people wouldn't be like, oh, the Earth is a marble.
I'll tell you. So the globe Earth, if they could get you to believe that we evolved from monkeys and all that, then you're gonna believe that certain humans advance more than others. So you're gonna believe that certain humans have higher capabilities of reasoning and thought and are just way smarter than me because, you know, we evolved, right? And they evolved a little more, right?
Okay.
But in reality, if people came to the conclusion that this place was created and it, you know, was a level Earth, and if people realize that, then what I realized, I can only speak for myself, but I think most people would think this too, is that we're all equal here. So I have the same five senses you have. So if you could conceive and understand something in reality, you should be able to explain that to me, and I should be able to understand it if you understand it, right? So by believing the globe Earth, we are putting other people of authority that we think are smarter than us, because again, we just believe what we're told. And that's how they're able to control us. We just buy into what they're saying because, again, we're doubting. At the end of the day, it's to make us doubt ourselves.
Okay.
It's to make you doubt your own common sense. That's what it's about. It's not so much
How-
about the shape of the Earth. It's to doubt your common
How
sense.
do you react to people like saying you're a conspiracy theorist?
Oh, to be honest, I haven't really came across people like that. Maybe it could be the cameras, you know, that keeps people a little reserved. But I would say, I mean, it doesn't affect me, to be honest. I would say they're just kind of reflecting.
Okay.
They were just, I would say that they're kind of feeling some type of way that they have to call me names.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I would say it's like a personal issue. You know,
Okay.
I wouldn't really like, you know,
wouldn't-
I wouldn't
you
fuel the
wouldn't
fire.
Embrace the name and say,
Oh,
yeah,
no,
I
no, no, no,
theorize
no, no,
about
no, no, no. I'm not a
this
conspiracy theorist. I'm a
controversial
conspiracy realist.
opinion. Okay.
So
Oh,
I
see
don't
what you're saying.
theorize on what could be happening. I go with what I know.
Okay.
So again, like 9/11, right? Like 9/11. So I know that the buildings, they were, you know, it was a demolition. You know, anything other than that, I don't know how it was planned. You know, who was involved. All that. They're just conspiracy theories. You know, I don't get into that. Those are theories to me. Again, are just a waste of time. They're just distractions. Any theory. It doesn't matter if it's a conspiracy theory, if it's a
You're
scientific
saying,
theory,
like-
or any theory.
Okay.
Yeah, I would stay away from theories.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And then with the cameras, are you making a YouTube video? Or?
I actually do share conversations because, again, a lot of people that know about this subject don't really have, you know, the vocabulary or the way to, you know, share it with others, you know, without being ridiculed or attacked.
Yeah.
So I like to show a method of approach,
Okay.
basically kind of like showing, you know, leading people through questioning, opposed to me just telling you, hey, the Earth is flatter. Because if I just had a sign like that, or if I just tell people that, look at what happened with that girl.
Yeah.
They just walked away.
Yeah.
She just made a face and walked away. You know, again, that's what happens. That's what the media has done to people. They literally, anytime people hear flat Earth or it's just a trigger word, and they automatically have like a defense wall going back up.
Because
You
they're
know,
like, oh, that person's
I would say they're
crazy or whatever.
brainwashed already. I would say
Okay.
they're just brainwashed. They can't even. Again, they want people like that because if you actually sit down and talk to someone like me, you're gonna start to understand it. You know what I'm saying? Or at least trigger some thoughts.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you know, people calling names and stuff like that doesn't really bother me.
So in addition to like having that to share like your perspective, like I don't know if it's like a community of
Right.
people who believe this, who like subscribe to this thought, but in addition to that, are you hoping that we as people who approach you, like we'll have our minds changed, or we'll start a government uprising, or like
So my
what's your
goal,
for
my
us?
goal is just to plant seeds of thought.
Okay.
So obviously I'm not going to convince you guys in 10, 15, 20 minutes of talking, you know, 20 plus years of lies, right? I'm not going to convince you in 5 minutes. But I'm just hoping to plant that seed of doubt, you know, in your mind, that hopefully, you know, you go, you know, after this, you go and look into this for yourself, maybe actually try to prove the globe to yourself. And if you did, I'm 100% sure you'll come to the same conclusions I did. Because, again, I went in this without a bias. I was a big fan of space, which was one of the reasons why this is so huge for me, because I believed everything about outer space, you know, going to other planets and what kind of creatures could live in certain different environments, you know, like, and I would imagine these fucking aliens and these windy planets and shit. So, again, because I believed all that, this hit hard for me, you know. And I could see why some people might be like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, right? Which again, at the end of the day, the shape of the earth doesn't really matter. It's again, it's an attack on our common sense. That's what it comes down to. So yeah, I would just say, yeah, just.
I mean, is it really an attack on our common sense when they didn't actually specifically say that it is exactly as they say it is? They just say it's a theory. No one ever told you that the Earth is flat. You have to believe it. They're just saying it's the most likely theory.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up that point because it's true. And when it comes down to it, they never actually claim that it's a sphere like directly, and especially on paper. That's why they call their photographs from space images. Again, they can't lie to us on paper because then they could be sued. So again, like you said, they haven't lied to us technically, right? But they're literally making us believe that by putting all the pieces there for us so that we kind of put the puzzle together ourselves, right? So it's kind of still, again, they have to do it very sneaky. So they have to make you, it's kind of like Inception, how they go in a dream to make you believe, to make a choice. So it's kind of like, they're kind of making you come to that conclusion by putting hints in front of you,
I get that, but I feel like it's more of a point, like rather than them trying to make us believe that it's round and like as a control way, I feel like it's more of a way to actually just make us understand the world around us better. It's like just a way to explain, like help us understand how the world is, right?
Right. So again, if we're gonna go and try to understand what the world is, I will go with natural science, not formal science.
Yeah, of course,
But the globe is formal
like
science.
Natural science, let's say, like tectonic plates.
Tectonic plates,
like,
yeah.
I don't physically see them shifting. Like I actually didn't go out and experience it. Of course, I feel earthquakes, but how do I explain it?
I would say the tectonic plates, like shifting. I would say honestly, like you said, I haven't really looked into that much, but I would say that's just a theory. I don't think the continents shift. But again, we do have earthquakes, but I don't think the continents shift. Again, that's what they told us, Pangea supposedly, and then that they shifted to what it is now. But you just have to believe that, like a Bible scripture,
Well, I mean, like Pangea, they did physically prove it with fossils, though, did they not?
I haven't looked into it really, but to be honest, I don't know how they could prove. So you're saying that because they found fossils on this land that were similar to this land, they assume that they were together, right? That's what I'm assuming you're saying?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, the fossil map.
Yeah, the fossil map. I would say, again, when it comes to fossils, oh man, I don't even want to, again, theories, but the whole dinosaur thing with fossils, if you look into dinosaur bones, they're not even dinosaur bones. What you see in museums, they're just chicken bones mashed together, sculpted into giant bones. And that's what they show in museums. So they're not, you could ask the people that work there or the people in charge. If you ask, hey, are these real skeletons of the dinosaurs? They'll say, no, they're replicas. They say that they have the original ones locked up somewhere and nobody could see them, test them. So I would say.
Possibly buy real ones. I mean.
Well, The Rock, right? Dwayne Johnson, these celebrities supposedly buy skeletons. I've seen celebrities buy skeletons, and in my opinion, it's just to kind of feed in the idea that they're real. Well, look, a celebrity paid $5 million for one, Of course they're real. He wouldn't pay $5 million for one. But again, celebrities, in my opinion, they're kind of like, they're puppets too. Celebrities, like governors, presidents, they do what they're told to, in my opinion, I wouldn't trust celebrities. Or anybody in the mainstream, especially if what they say contradicts reality, especially, natural science, physics, scientific method. If it contradicts all that.
Personally speaking, though, like what you're saying is also defying what I actually observed, right?
Well, it's not just an observation, because an observation.
I pin the word gravity to the quote-unquote force that pushes down on us, right? Yeah. So wouldn't water technically be also like going downwards because of gravity? And how would it go downwards because of gravity? Like, otherwise, like, if it is flat, like, we would technically be falling though, right?
But that's because you believe in outer space, right? I don't believe in outer space. So I just know the Earth exists.
Like lying there?
I like that you're thinking outside the box, because I try to conceptualize that too. Like, what could be outside of the Earth, right? What's holding it, right? Because, right? That kind of makes sense, right? But I'm gonna be real with you. It's hard to conceptualize that. I don't know what's outside the Earth, and just because I don't know what could be outside of it, I'm not gonna throw away my common sense,
Oh, yeah, of course, but the thing is,
it's irrelevant what's outside of the Earth to the shape of the Earth.
Like those information about what's on the outside of the Earth and whatnot. It's to help push forward our civilization, you know? Like, we would kind of be going back if we just, like, try and disprove what is mostly proven. Like, as you said, like, sure, Galileo and whatnot could be quote-unquote fake, but their scriptures are still there. Like,
But who wrote those scriptures? That's my point. That we don't know if they wrote them or if someone else that created these characters and just wrote them on a book. You know what I'm saying?
okay, then who wrote about level?
Well, that's reality. It's like, for example, we can observe this tree, right? We can make an observation that it's there, right? But I can't physically measure it just by looking at it. I can't.
Yeah.
If I want to measure how thick it is, I have to go with a measuring tape, and I can get a measurement. I could even measure the height, right? So just observing something is not enough. And that's what I'm saying. We're not just observing water. We're measuring it. We use it to measure. That's my point. It's used in construction. That's what tells us water's level. I don't have to believe in a theory of gravity or what's causing it to be level. It is what it is. That's my point. Reality is what it is. So when you're saying like, well, what makes it level? Well, that's the physics of water. Like, for example, what causes air pressure to equilibrate? When you create a higher pressure on a ball and you pop it and pour a hole in it, the air rushes out. Why? Because air pressure always equilibrates, right? And I would ask you why? Because that's the physics of air, right? Air always equalizes. The same thing with water. Water always equalizes.
But then the thing is, we can't explain why it equalizes.
I know.
Other theories,
I would agree, and that's
right?
the end. That's the end of our understanding. Anything further than that, I would say is theories. But it's a simple fact, though, that water is level. But like you're saying, if you want to go further into why it's level, those are theories. Does that make sense? But we could prove that it's level. But why it's level, I don't know. It's what it is, what it is. That's my point.
I have more questions since
Yeah.
I was late to
Yeah.
the convo
Yeah.
before I have to leave.
No worries.
So, you believe that the Earth is flat, right?
Again, it's not flat because there's
Okay.
mountains and valleys. It's level. I would say it's level. Horizontal, ultimately.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
So, like, if we imagine the world as a disc,
That's the
Does
thing.
that-
I can't.
that doesn't work either?
No,
Okay.
because outer space
not.
doesn't exist to me.
Okay.
Because, so I would say this place is more like a realm.
okay.
Like a realm. So a realm, it doesn't have a shape. It's just a place of existence. So that's what I think this place is. If anything, again, I don't want to jump into conclusions. It's just what I ponder. You know, because I can't conceptualize a disc or a shape of the earth in the middle of nowhere. You know, I just think this place is more like a realm.
How about, like, the sun and the stars?
Yeah, they're there. They're part of the realm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're part of the realm. Yeah.
What's your background in?
What do you mean my background?
Like, I don't know.
What I study. Okay, so
Living.
so actually I graduated with honors from high school. Not like it matters, but
Yeah.
it just showed that I'm obedient, right? So I didn't pursue college. I just didn't really, interest me. You know, point being, and I just got a normal job. Like I actually work in moving. Luckily, I'm self-employed, so I'm able to take some days off to come in and do this. Because if I just let my job occupy me, I won't be able to do this. And that's what they want us, occupied. I don't know if you knew, when you go fill out an application for a job, it's called an occupation because it's just there to keep you occupied. Jobs are just there to basically distract us from actually pursuing our own lives. You know what I'm saying? We're living someone else's idea of a life. The whole land has been monopolized, literally.
Yeah.
We're literally playing a monopoly game with made up money because money's not even made, you know what I'm saying? So I think we're literally living in crazy times right now, in my opinion, again. So again, yeah, my background is just like everyone else's, and that's why someone like me will never make it to the mainstream, you know what I'm saying? Because yeah, it's just they wouldn't allow it,
Do you have any other, like, I don't know, like, what other realms of, I'm trying to think of how I can phrase it. So, like, I don't know, obviously people have a lot of different beliefs, like, contrary to the mainstream, different, like, I don't know. So, like, what else, do you have any other opinions that you think are
valid,
like,
right? Okay.
or, like, that are, I don't know.
That has to do with the shape of the earth, or just in general?
So, like, there's obviously, like, food deserts, and then the government is pushing dairy consumption on people of color because biologically they aren't, like, disposed for it, or, like...
Right, so actually...
other crazy things.
Yeah, so this is actually a thought I've been having lately that I've been wanting to share, so I'm glad you asked that. So, if we look around, there's trees everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Why aren't they fruit trees?
Yeah.
Why isn't this a banana tree? Why isn't that an avocado tree? Why isn't that an orange tree? Why isn't... So,
like, why Watermelons are seedless.
right?
now.
And then, I mean, and you got to ask yourself why. And the reason is because, again, the land's been monopolized. So if there was fruit trees everywhere,
It's more about like.
it's about control. Because if there was food
it?
everywhere, yeah.
Because I feel like it's more about the environment it grows in, and also the amount of water consumption it needs. Like for example, in more arid places, you want to grow something.
Who controls the water, though? Who has all the dams? The city. The city controls the water. So it's about controlling the land at the end of the day, too. So they control us by controlling the land. That's how they control the food, the water, and that's how they control us. So in my opinion, one way to get out of this, let's start planting trees. Banana trees, apple trees, mango trees, avocado trees.
They
Why?
do though, just